Got to start the videos.
Told yesterday, but before Noach or his sons or whatever, people did not have fingers.
They didn't have fingers?
No,
What did they have?
all joined together, like a duck.
Where does it say that?
As I there.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so welcome to the share on Parshas Lecha. So I must say, after last week, I did a lot more thinking, as you do, and I had a few interesting questions. Yeah. So, what happened to the Teva? What happened to it?
It was stuck up there.
Right. So was it just there, like a museum now? Oh yes, we're going to the Teva Museum. I don't know. Was it just sitting there for hundreds of years? This big, massive. Did Noach use it as his house? I don't know.
No, we don't know where he landed.
Right. Okay, but when he did, wherever he did land, what happened to it? Did he use it as his house? Was it an indoor farm? I don't know.
They left it and then they walked.
Right, but I'm saying, so what happened to the table? Did it just biodegrade over time? Did he destroy it? Did he live in it? I don't know. It's just an interesting...
It was made into condominiums.
Yes, today that would have been it. Yeah, to make it into condominiums. Very good, yeah. Over 550-year living, right? Instead of 55 plus, that'll be over 500. Listen, it was just a thought I had. Well, what happened to it? Where did it go? Where did it disappear to?
Still there. People see it. They go on a plane or something, and they saw an outline.
I saw that, yes. Right.
Is that back in the table?
I don't know. So that tells you if there's an outline in the ground, it must have been there for many years. You don't just make an outline because it landed once. It must have been there for a few hundred years, I don't know, some big, massive... must have blended into the skyline. Just an interesting observation that I had. That's all. Okay, so let's get into Parshas Lecha. So an overview on Parshas Lecha is the trials of Avram. Of course, we know the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos 10 trials Avraham had, and some of them in Parshas Lecha, some of them in Parshas Vayera, and according to one opinion, Parshas Chayesara as well. And it starts off with Hashem telling Avram, Go out from your land. He was in a place called Haran, which I Googled, seems to be in modern-day southern Turkey. That seems to be where they say it was. Southern Turkey, the top of Syria area, that sort of area. That's where Haran was, because he went from Or Kasdim, which is like Iraq area, up to Haran at the end of last week's Parsha, right? They went to Haran. It says he was in Haran. Again, there's a lot of geography in this week and last week, places that... I'm not quite sure exactly where everything is, but Vayamos Terach b'Charan. Terach, Avram's father, died in Haran. Avram lived in Haran, and then Hashem says to him, "Go to a land that I'm going to show you." So he has to pick him up at 75 years old, and he goes. He gets to Israel. All of a sudden, there's a famine, so he has to leave. He goes to Mitzrayim. He tells everybody Sarah, his wife, is really his sister. She gets taken to Paro. Surprise, surprise. And Paro gets plagued with lots of diseases, and he realizes, he asks Sarah what's going on, and Sarah says, I'm really a married woman. The Pirkei to Rabbi Lezer says, what night of the year was it that Sarah tried to rape, that Paro tried to rape Sarah and couldn't and had all these plagues? Was the night of Pesach. The first night, the night of the many years later, 400 years later, whatever it was, when they had Makas Bechoros that night. So we know that everything that happened to the forefathers is repeated in history. So that was the night. Then Avram goes. He's very rich. He's very wealthy. And him and Lot decide we can't be together. We're too wealthy. We're too much stuff. So Lot leaves and he goes towards Sodom. And Avram goes to a place called, he settles in Hebron. Then Hashem promises him, you're going to have the land of Israel. Then we have the war of the 4 kings against the 5 kings. Avram goes to rescue Lot, who was captured. And then, of course, we have the Bris Bein Abasarim, where Avram falls into a deep sleep, which is another time I say, twice in the Torah, men have very, very deep sleeps. Parshas Bereshis, that's right, when woman was born, it says Hashem put a very, very deep sleep on man and he created woman. Here again, Avram had a very deep sleep and Hashem made this whole vision of the pieces and so on and so forth. So men, now ingrained in men is the ability to have very, very deep sleeps, but not women, because women never had these deep sleeps in the Torah. So therefore, that's why men can always sleep well and the women always complain they can't sleep, right? Anyway, everything comes from the Torah. Then we have Sarai taking a maidservant for Avram, giving him another wife because she didn't have children for so long, and they have a child. First, she has a miscarriage because Sarai makes her life a misery because she, on the face of it, I'm going to say on the face of it, she gets angry that she has a child with Avram, and Avram, why did you daven that you should have a child and not me? So she gets angry and she overworks her, and then she miscarries, but then she has another child. And then, hold on, somebody's at the door. And then she has another child that we know Hashem tells them to call him Yishmael, which means Hashem heard her cry. Hello. Hello, Barry. How are you? How's everything? Good? Okay, so we just started. We're in the middle of the overview. And then at the end of the Parsha, Hashem gives the mitzvah of Brit Milah, that Avram should have a Brit Milah. Of course, the famous question is, if Avram kept the whole Torah, which is what they say, why didn't he have a Brit Milah first? So two answers, main answers they give. One is because any mitzvah you can do again. God tells you to do it, you can do it again at a later time. Shabbos, I'll keep Shabbos next week, right? Yom Kippur, I'll keep Yom Kippur next year, once God tells me. But Bris Milah, you can only do once. So he wanted to wait till God told him, and therefore he did the mitzvah properly, because doing it once God tells you is an even better commandment, right?
Just embellished on the mitzvah.
Right, but also another reason is, why do we have the mitzvah of Bris Milah? Because we are removing what the term is called an orla, something that's an orla, something that's extra that we don't need, that's disgusting for our soul, whatever that means. So until Hashem said that this is an orla, there was no din orla, so there's no point doing a bris milah, right? Until Hashem dedicated that this was an orla, and so on. And another reason is because you're not allowed to mutilate yourself for no reason, right? You can't just go around, your bodies don't belong to you, they belong to Hashem, right? That's one of also the reasons for the mitzvahs, prohibitions of not having tattoos and other things, right? Because your body is Hashem's. We are just keeping it, and in mitzvah Hashem, we will get our bodies back for the new existence in the Olam Haba and so on. So that's a very basic overview of the Parsha. But I came across something which I've known for many years. But it's funny how different things, you think of different things in different times, and certain things you see and they never impact you. The Gemara says you never fully understand something you've learned until 40 years later, right? I suppose because the idea is every year you think about it a bit more and a bit more and you find it. So I saw something that I knew and I never really questioned it really until this year, till a few days ago. So there's a very famous Ramban, Nachmanides, very famous. In fact, it's so famous that the Reb Moshe Feinstein says it's a mistake. Can't be. Not possible. So what is this Ramban? It is at the beginning when Avram leaves. He comes to Canaan. Whoops, there's a famine now. So he gets up and he goes to Egypt. Some people say he put Sarah in a box, whatever. And now Sarah gets captured. He said, she is my sister. Says the Ramban, and I'm going to quote because the language is we could never dream of saying such a thing, but the Ramban obviously does. So on. So the Ramban, this is in chapter, hold on. Let me find it. Here. This is in chapter Yud Beis, chapter 12, Pasuk Yud. Now the Rambans are not in this Chumash, so I'm just going to read it out. So says the Ramban, he Rav Ba'av, there was famine. Hine Avram Yarad leMitzrayim mipnei Arav. Abraham went down to Egypt because there was famine. Right? We know that. VaMitzrayim Oshku also, the Mitzrayim did badly to him. Lokachas Asishta, they took his wife. Kadosh Baruch Hu no came nikmasa b'negam gedolim. Kadosh Baruch Hu took vengeance against them on behalf of Avram and gave them terrible plagues. Voitziu misham b'mikneh b'kesav v'zav. Now he left with lots of cattle, with money, with gold. He became very rich. Says the Ramban, V'da, you should know, ki Avraham Avinu, listen to this, chata chet gadol bishkaga. He did not just a sin, chet gadol, a great sin. Shehevi ishta hatzadekis b'michshol ava b'mnei pakto ben yargu. He did a great sin, by mistake, not on purpose, that he brought his wife to such a terrible situation. Just lost the place. And he should have believed that Hashem would save him and his wife. Hashem has the ability to save. And also the fact that he left in the first place. God told you to go to Israel. Stay in Israel. Why are you leaving? God can provide for you even then. Now this gets into a big debate about, do you just sit there and rely on God? Hello, God, right? Man from heaven, or do you have to go out and do something? Right? That's a whole big debate over here, right? How far do you have to go and do something, right? But the Ramban feels, wait a minute, if God says specifically, go to Israel, then you stay in Israel. Again, so he did chot or chet God, he did a great sin when he put Sarah in a box, and then Ovo nasher chata ki adakim bara yiptenu mimaves. God will save you from death, right? That's one of our beliefs. But Amasazam, because of all of this, Nigza al Zara had golos be'eretz Mitzrayim b'yad Paro. That's why our punishment, we went to Egypt. Now, Moshe Feinstein says this can't be. How can the Ramban say such a thing about Avraham Avinu, great sins? He says it must be a mistake. Somebody else must have written it over the years, must have been added in. Okay. However, I found out a couple of days ago, I haven't seen the Zohar inside because I don't have a Zohar. Apparently the Zohar says this. The Zohar says that Avraham made a mistake. He should not have done this, whatever. Okay, so that's a famous Ramban that I know. But what I thought about this year, that I've never really truly meditated on, and we'll discuss it here, is, wait a minute. Didn't we say, and it's a Mishnah, so it's not just hearsay, it's a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah Perkei Avos, chapter 5. Here we go. Mishnah Gimel. Asara nisyonos nisasa Avraham Avinu. 10 trials. Abraham was tested. V'amad bekulam. He passed all of them. To tell you how great Hashem's love for Avraham was. Okay? So he passed the tests. Fine, great. So the Mishnah doesn't tell you what these tests are. Right? When it comes to the 10 miracles in the Beis HaMikdash, it tells you what they are. When it says the 10 things God created Erev Shabbos, it tells you what they are. But it doesn't tell you what the 10 tests are. So, I looked in the Rishonim. I haven't looked in every place, okay, for explanations, because I don't have every say, but I didn't have the time. But if you look in the Rishonim, the main commentaries, you got Rashi, Rambam, Rashi, Rabbeinu Yonah, and the Baal Tinura. So there are differences as to what these 10 tests are, and the Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer also brings down what these 10 tests are. And let's just see Rashi, because that's the shortest, most concise. What are the 10? Bikesh Nimrod lahargai. Nimrod wanted to kill him, threw him into the oven. Right? They had to leave. That's very difficult. I'm planning to speak a bit more about that on Shabbos and Mandami and all these sort of things, right? Leaving is very difficult, right? And so on. I know that a little bit, right? I left, you know that, you left your hometown and everything, right? Not so easy. With different cultures across oceans, right? We get a little bit of a flavor, right?
When I left, I made a suicide.
Okay, so maybe they've given, right? And for people who have left, have come from other countries, and you know, a lot of Jews, it's very difficult, right? You come, you don't know the culture, right? People still laugh at me today about words I say that you've no idea what I'm talking about, or we don't do that here, right? So it's very difficult. So that was a great test. Rashi clearly says the famine was a test. And Sarah was captured, another test. Uvo hamalachim, and it goes on the other test, the brisbane abasorim, and then he had to do Bismillah 99. Yishmael had to kick him out, and then he had to do Akedas Yitzchak, the pinnacle. The Rambam also, they differ in a couple of them, but the Rambam clearly says, what was the third test? He rav ba'aretz. It was a famine. What's the fourth test? Chamas hamitzim. Sarah. They took Sarah. Taking was also another test. Rabbeinu Yonah, the same thing. Rabbeinu Yonah is different because he says the 10th test was not the Akedah, but the burial of Sarah straight after the Akedah, right? Come home from the Akedah, you're woohoo, let's tell Sarah all about it. Whoops, your life's partner has been taken from you, right? Now you've got to do it all by yourself. Now, that, he says, was the final test, the most difficult test that he faced. Okay. But also the same thing. The famine was a test, and Sarah being taken was a... So they all basically say, a couple of differences here and there, a couple of extra tests that some have, some don't have. But they all have the fact that you got to Israel and there was a famine. All have it as one of the tests. And they all have that Sarah was taken as one of the tests. And there's a difference because Sarah was taken twice. Once this week and then in 2 weeks by Avimelech. So some have it twice, that she was taken twice or 2 separate tests. And some say, no, 1 test, that's enough, right? Second time, okay. So they all have these 2 tests. So wait a minute. Follow the formula. The Mishnah clearly says that Avraham Avinu passed all of his tests. That's what we know in school, children. Right? We all get told in school. Avraham had 10 tests and he passed them all. Correct? That's what we're all taught. So hang on a minute. If he passed all of his tests, and they all have this test of being a famine, and the test of Sarah being taken as a test, then how do we understand the Ramban that he made a sin by leaving? In fact, it's funny, not funny. It's interesting. What was the test that you'll say in the Pikador? What was the test that there was a famine? As Rashi says here, he never thought to himself, this God is a funny fellow. I mean, come on. He tells me, give up my life, give up everything, come to Israel. And now all of a sudden there's a famine, says the Pikador. It was the first famine in history. It wasn't like these things were a common occurrence, right? All of a sudden now there's a famine. God, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. Didn't think about that at all. Okay? And that was the test. So wait a minute. If that's the test, how did he pass it? If we say the Ramban said he shouldn't have left. But even more than against the Ramban, we know there are opinions that say further down the line. With the Bris Bein Abasorim at the end of the Parsha, right? Hashem said, I'm going to give Israel all to your children. And what did Avram say? Bama Eidaki Irosheno, right? How do I know that we're going to inherit it? And a lot of people, as Rashi said, that was a punishment. He should not have said it. And as a punishment, God said, right, your children are going to go to exile. So wait a minute. According to most opinions, the Medrash is not the Ramban now. There's a Medrash, the Gemara, that talk about Avram made a mistake. He erred by saying, how do I know, God? How do I know that you're going to keep your words and so on and so forth? Oh, many different interpretations. He meant in what merit? How do I know if my kids are going to be naughty? How they're going to merit the same thing? Okay. But the Gemara, the Medrash, they all say the pshat that Avraham erred. And he got punished by having to go to exile, right? And here, the Ramban quoting the Medrash that because of Paro taking Sarah, the Jews got taken by Paro later down. So these are punishments. So how on earth do we say that he passed all these tests? Do you see the question? Mm-hmm. You see the issue? So I looked around a bit. I couldn't find anybody that speaks about it. So let's try and imagine something ourselves. And this is what I thought of. It's really amazing to think about it. Because we struggle in our own lives with things. We think about stuff. And we all know, Avram passed his tests. 10 tests, he must have been perfect. Now again, I don't want to chas v'shalom say bad things about Avram Avinu. Please, not for me to say. I'm just repeating over some of these things and I'm trying to work something out. So, preface that before you start thinking, what am I saying about Avram Avinu? It implies that yes, he passed the tests, but it wasn't perfect, right? He was still human in some way, right? Because the test was he didn't think badly about Hashem. The Ramban says, okay, but he should have still stayed. He left. Okay. That was wrong according to the Ramban and the Zohar apparently. That was a mistake. But it didn't stop him passing the test. Because the test was on what? The test on was whether he would think badly about God. So somehow we can separate the two ideas. Certain areas created certain responses that led to punishments. The leaving, according to the Ramban, the being taken from Sarah, which was a mistake, caused outcomes further down the line. But that doesn't mean that he failed the tests. Now, if you're looking at me for great words of wisdom, I don't have great words of wisdom. I'm just trying to see at the moment. I'm just trying to take out from these questions that I've asked. Do you hear the questions?
No, I hear.
The question must have an answer. That how can we say he passed the tests when the Ramban and the Medrash and the Gemara say that certain negative outcomes came about because of certain actions that he did within those tests. So it must be that, of course, he passed the test. The Mishnah says he passed the test. We're living off the merits of the fact that he passed the tests. But we are humans, right? And we live in a very fast-paced world. Things are happening all the time. You don't get weeks and months to make decisions. You don't get time to sit down and to think and to weigh up. Should I go? Should I not go? What should I do? What's the forecast over the next few weeks, right? What is Max App telling me? The hurricane is going to go in the next 3 weeks, right? He didn't have those opportunities. Should I stay? Should I not? So he had to make a very quick decision. I've got no food. I'm starving. What do I do? But yet, that wasn't the test. That bit, according to the Ramban, he erred. His calculations were wrong. He should have stayed according to the Ramban and the Zohar. Yes, he should have stayed. His calculation wasn't the correct calculation. But yet he could still pass the test. Because what was the test? The test was, am I going to think badly about God? And that he passed. Because he didn't think badly about God. Whether he left, which he did, whether he should have stayed, according to some opinions, that doesn't matter. He didn't think badly of God. And the same with the test later. They say, what was the test of being shown all these things? Can you imagine? Just think about it. If you or parents were shown the Holocaust, chas v'shalom, right? God gave you a vision 100 years ago of the Holocaust and the terrors and the horrors and all that stuff, right? Think about how that would make you feel. Says the Medrash, says the Rashi, he did not deter him at all. Yes, that could be in the future, but I'm going to carry on my life's mission. I'm going to trust in God. I'm going to believe in God, right? So that was the test. Yes, there were mistakes along the way, it seems. Not my words. The words of the Ramban, for instance, and others. Miscalculations, missteps, things that he should perhaps have done differently. But yet that doesn't impact on whether he passed the test. And then I thought about it a little bit more. If you think about it, we say Avram Avinu had 10 tests. We talk about nisyonos all the time, right? We say life is full of nisyonos. Life is full of tests. Every day tests. Wait a minute. You're telling me Avram had 10 tests. The first one was when he was 75. Okay. A bit earlier when he went into or casting, whatever year that was. Okay. And even if you're going to say the last test finished when Sarah died, or the Akedah, right? Now, there are opinions that say the Akedah happened much earlier. We all know that Yitzchak was 37, which means Avram was 137 when it happened. But according to the Ibn Ezra, it was much earlier. You say Yitzchak was a much younger boy. But maybe we'll get into that next week. So these tests came about in a short period of time, right? Even if you're going to say from 75 to 135, okay. But he still lived the first 75 years. And then he still lived from 137 to 175. So there were many years either side of that. So what? No nisyonos, no tests, no whatever, no issues at all in his life.
If you're not stayed, then you won't be any test or anything like that. But he failed already on that.
Right. But what I'm saying is, you're telling me from age 137 to 175, there was no challenge at all in his life? So it appears to me, again, just following the formula, that this nisyonos are not what we call challenges in life. Everyone gets challenges all the time. Should I get out of bed this morning? Should I get time to shul? Should I get to shul on time? Doesn't matter. I'll miss a day. Right? That's a challenge. And we get like every day. Every day we get that challenge, right? Some get bigger challenges. Should I do this? That's not right. Should I eat the non-kosher? Should I do this? Challenges that happen on a daily basis. The Gemara says the Yetzer Hara tries to kill a person every day. Every day he's trying to get you to do something, right? Whether it's to do the big sin today or he's already laying in the methods and the formula for you to, end up with a sin, right? People who get caught doing all sorts of terrible things, right? Whether it's stealing Ponzi schemes, whether it's, get caught with immorality, whatever. It all starts on a gradual basis, right? It doesn't start, today, right, I've stolen $100 million, right? Starts over there, exactly. So the Yetzer Hara is already planning, right? The Yetzer Hara is the greatest planner there is, right? You want a party planner? You get the Yetzer Hara, right? He knows how to plan. So those challenges day to day, that's not what we're talking about here. It can't be what we're talking about because Avram did some missteps in some of these things. He was 75 when he got his first test. So what was going on before him? He found God. We all know the stories, right? He turned away from idols and he found God. Was that not a challenge? Was that not a test? Should I serve my idols today? Should I not serve? Well, I don't talk about that. It seems that these nisyonos are extra special things. And even though along the way there were a few little things that were not perfect, it doesn't matter. Because God was looking at something specific. I was looking for something specific. And to give an example, I was thinking, what example can I give of this that to help us try and understand it? So sometimes school children, right? They may not get the answers all correct in some of their tests, but sometimes the teacher can see, I see enough in what he's doing. I see enough potential, whatever it is. Or maybe a sports person, right? You may lose every game, right? But I see enough in this picture, right? It's not his fault they dropped off the catches and they threw the missed balls and the other team won. But I see enough in this picture, even though they lost. I see potential in this guy. Maybe you put him in the right environment, a different team. He'll be world class. I see it. So that's the same idea here. God's not looking necessarily at the overall picture. Did you throw the perfect game? Apparently somebody did that the other night. Right? They said they threw a perfect game. Well, I don't understand it because the other team still got 1 point, 1 run. So how do you play a perfect game if somebody still gets 1 run? I don't know. Not that I'm an expert on baseball. What?
Oh, baseball.
Didn't the Dodgers, anyway, I saw something about the guy threw a perfect game, but the other position still got 1. So I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Could have been a walk.
Could have been, right, okay. All right, I'm not an expert on baseball. But you get the idea, right? God is not looking for you to throw a perfect game. But within certain times of life, He's looking to see your potential. Oh, you did this? You didn't question me. Okay, so you should have stayed. You shouldn't have stayed. Okay, we'll forgive that. That doesn't matter. But did you question me? That's what I'm looking for. Did you question me? Did you think I'm crazy? Did you think I'm the worst God in the world, that I tell you to go somewhere, move your whole life, schlep all the way down here only for there to be no food? Like if I invite you to my house, come for Shabbos. Yeah, it'll be great. Come, stay at my house. Yeah, it'll be great. And then there's no food. Oh no, I don't give him any food. What would you think of me? What's this funny rabbi is this? Invites me over his house, right? Friday night dinner next week, and everyone's paying all this money, coming to the Friday night dinner. Oh, sorry, no food this week. It's a spiritual meal. I mean, you look at me as you go, what? You know? And I'll say, I was testing you all. You all failed the test. Right, goodbye. Right? So now Avraham, he passed it in that respect. So it's a new way of looking at these things, and it's a great inspiration for our lives. Because it's not about perfection. It's not about perfection. Can't be perfect. It's not possible to be perfect. As the Gemara, the Pasuk says, "Ein Adam Tzadik Ba'aretz Asher Ya'aseh Tov V'lo." It's not possible that you can do completely good and never sin. Life is so quick. Life is happening all the time. Decisions 1, 2, 3. You don't have time to think. Right. Wait a minute. Just stop. Should I do? You don't have time for that. And there's pressures and there's this. So it's not about perfection. That's why we have Yom Kippur. And that's why we daven and I talk about the whole time. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about how we're going to continue. And we see that in a different light now. I see these tests of Avraham in a different light. Yes, Barry.
I was thinking when he wasn't the first one to go to Egypt, and when the other person went to Egypt, what did they do? They gave account of how many went. They didn't give account for Avraham, so he's by himself. So now he's leaving. He's going by himself. How many followers did he have at that time? He didn't have enough to be counted to go in.
Right.
So what was he experiencing there? Maybe the test was to survive and believe in God.
Right.
In a terrible environment.
Right. Could be. Yeah. Certainly that's why we went to Egypt with the whole nation, was to survive in a place like that. I found something I heard in a shir that the Sefer Hadoros, which goes through dates and things of everything, says how long was Avraham in Mitzrayim? 3 months. So this moves on to the next point that I want to finish with, 12:39. Okay, so we have time.
What time are you leaving?
Well, the share is till 12:45. So I don't know. I got till 12:45. Yeah. So now the question does become, and this is a regular question that a lot of people have: how could Avraham leave with a sin, not a sin, leave all that side of it? Just question the logic of Avraham turning to his wife and saying, I'm worried they're going to kill me. Let's go through it. Let's see what he says. Avram's coming to Egypt. He says to Sarah, his wife, now see, and I know you're such a beautiful woman. But when these Egyptians are going to see you, and they say, she's my wife, he's going to kill me, and they'll keep you alive. Say you're my sister. They'll do good for me. Give me lots of money, gold, silver, as they did. And my life will live because of you. So he's basically, as we say in today's vernacular, he's throwing Sarah under the bus. Is that an American expression?
Yes.
Good. Right. So he's throwing Sarah under the bus, number one.
It's not a double decker.
So he's throwing her under the bus. How could he do such a thing? Number one. Number two, you're saying he didn't have the emunah to believe that Hashem could save him? To say all that sort of stuff. You say, number one. And number two, look what he adds on at the end. He's trying to profit off this. You get raped, you get taken, or married, and now, this is great here. As nowadays, without going into the right words. We'll just, nowadays people get put in jail for this sort of stuff, right? You get the idea.
You get a medal. Listen. Avram said to his wives, tell them that you are what?
My sister.
Why did he have to do that? Why didn't he say, she's my wife?
This is exactly the question we're answering that we're going to answer now. Go on. You have an answer?
I don't know.
So that's the big question. So the Abarbanel, right? 15th century Spanish giant of so he says as follows. Now, he says, in the olden day world, in the Orient, isn't that what they call that area? The Orient? Or was
Yeah.
in the Orient?
Far East.
Far East, right. So in the Orient, what used to happen was, right, you'd come to town with a woman, right? You wouldn't necessarily take her the first day, right? You would negotiate, right? I want her. What are you going to give me? You're going to give me $1,000 for her, right? No good. I'm not giving her to you. The next guy. No, what are you going to give me for marrying my sister, marrying my daughter? What are you going to give me? Negotiate. No, there's no good. It takes time, right? What do we have in the Megillah? Megillah's Esther. They spent how long? A year. B'Shem and Amar and all the beautiful, making themselves look beautiful for a year, right? The cosmetic industry for a year. So you saw they didn't just take a woman straight away. You need to, take your time, whatever. Because we're talking about marrying now, right? Because, she's an available woman. I'll take her to be married. So says the Abarbanel, this is what Avram thought. He thought, I don't know how long I'm going to be there. There's a famine. I don't know. Hopefully it won't be long. Hashem's testing me. I'm going to go out, get some food. Maybe in a week or two, we'll be able to sneak out of there and go back to my mission. As you see at the end, he went back to the same place. If I tell them you're my wife, that's it. Goodbye.
Why?
Or we don't like that because there's no negotiations if she's my wife. If she's my wife, how can you negotiate? We have to kill you because now we have to take this woman. No, we'll negotiate amongst ourselves. But we have to get rid of the fact that she's married. So if I tell her that she's my wife, first thing the mafia will do, bullet in the head. Goodbye. If I come in and say you're my sister, I'm going to buy myself some time. He never thought that she would be taken. He never thought it would get that far. But it was a delaying tactic. It was a stalling tactic. I will stall them. Okay, in the time that we are negotiating, okay, what are you going to give me? Nah, it's no good, right? What are you? Prove yourself that you are worthy of her affections, of her love, of marrying her, right? You can just imagine, right? So that's what he thought, says the Abarbanel. He thought, and that's where he brings in, the Seder Olam says it was 3 months, which is actually quite a long time. If you think about it, I mean, you'd have thought maybe it'd sneak off after 3 weeks. I don't know.
3 months was the...
right.
You see Simonim.
So you're saying you should date for 3 months, like Avram was in Mitzrayim for 3 months.
He took her.
Right.
But Abraham judged their character when he
not
came
only
in.
that,
They didn't ask him if he needed food.
So that
They
was
didn't
also
ask
by
him if he
Avimelech
needed
too.
house.
Yeah, exactly. Straight away about the wife.
Their
Yeah.
character. And he knew that they didn't ask those things first.
Exactly.
They were not of the character to be among them.
Right. But that's what the Abarbanel says. He was stalling. He was playing for time. That if I say you're my wife, that's it. Goodbye. The mafia will put a bullet in the back of your head. But if I say you're my sister, okay, now we'll negotiate, right? Because even the mafia, they don't like killing straight away. We'll try and negotiate with you. Try and get you over to our side, whatever. And that's what he was thinking, and that's what he was hoping. But I did say I was finished with this, but I do want to finish with something else, which is a lesson that I want to impart. And that is about Shalom. And you can take this to Israel. You can take this wherever you want to take this message. In your own lives, shul lives, private lives, whatever it is, you can take this message. There was an argument. They were fighting. Avram calls him over. Let's not have arguments. This is not good. We are brothers. We are family. We shouldn't have an argument. What would you expect the next words out of Avram's mouth to be? I don't know, come here for a hug if they're that way inclined in the olden days. I don't know. Put our differences aside. Let's get on with it. That's what you would think. Avram, the pillar of chesed, right? He's the pillar of kindness. He says to Lot, sit down. We're brothers. We're family. Let's not there be machloikas here. But what does he say? He doesn't say that. Kicks him out. But in a nice way. He parid nomela. We have to separate. I mean, if you go left, I'll go right. And if you go to the right, I'll go to the left. We'll both move. So I know if he sees and he leaves. It's fascinating. Avram Avinu, pillar of chesed. Let's not fight. So, where's the love and stuff? Go. I think that's an amazing lesson. That sometimes for peace, Avram says, let's make peace. Let's have peace together. Let's have a peace treaty, a peace deal, but still, you have to leave. Because sometimes we want peace, we should have peace, yes. But peace doesn't mean that you live together necessarily. Sometimes separating, sometimes making a split, and you see that whether it's husband and wife, sometimes a divorce is inevitable. Doesn't mean it shouldn't necessarily be peaceful. You could have, I know it's not always easy, but in theory, you could have a peaceful breakup, not always possible, right? So I just can't live with this person. Me and him, we just can't live. I like him, well, let's be peaceful. We're fighting all the time, we're beating each other up. For the sake of peace, let's separate. And that's what Avram was saying. Now, let's be peaceful. We want to get on. But we can't do that together. We can't live in the same house. We can't be in the same field. For whatever reason, I think that's a great lesson. We think of peace. And yes, peace is a great goal. Don't get me wrong. But peace doesn't always mean that we are all together. Because sometimes if everyone's all together, there can't be peace. Because we're humans, that's just the way it goes. Sometimes, okay, so you have your own separate shul, you have your own separate place, you get split up and get divorced, you go over there, you move away. That doesn't mean it's not peaceful. That doesn't mean just because you decide to move away, to split up, to make a period, as they say, right? I'm going to go start my own agency. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to start, we're great lawyers together, but we're fighting. I'm going to go start my own practice. That doesn't mean there doesn't have to be peace. From this week's Parsha, Avram said, we're brothers, let's be peaceful, let's be together, let's not fight. But you go away. It's interesting, by the way, he didn't just say, you go away. He said, we'll both go. That's another lesson. Don't just leave it, we're not good, bye-bye, you go. What, you're going to stay here living in, no, you both go. You sell the house, you both live. Okay, that's another story. But that's the lesson I want to bring out, that sometimes to be peaceful doesn't mean you're all together. And I think the same is whether it's with Israel, whether it's other things. To say, peaceful, but sometimes it can't be peaceful. You can't have shalom. Sometimes, in certain cases, if everyone's together, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a business, whatever it is. Culture. But that's not a problem. That's what I'm trying to say from this week's parasha. It's not an issue. It's not an antithesis of peace to say, let's separate. It's not the antithesis of peace to say, we're better off apart. You see that from Avram Avinu, who was the pillar of chesed and so on. Now it's interesting, this doesn't seem to be counted as one of the tests. But anyway, it was clearly an issue in his life that he had to deal with, right? But it wasn't one of the tests that we talk about, the nisyonos, right? That's, again, a part of my idea that Avram had challenges. He clearly had challenges. But they were the nisyonos, the big tests that God was giving. So that's a few lessons that I wanted to bring out from this week's Parsha. I wish everybody a good week.
So what happened was peace. He had 50% pieces.
Very good. And in the end, Avram, right, there was so much peace that Avram risked his life next week.
Save him.
Sorry, he risked his life this week. Sorry, this week he risked his life to go and save him. He didn't just say, forget about him, he's been captured. We'll discuss that next week, but what particularly about that?
Because Baruch Hu told Abraham Avinu
to do it, so why was that such a test? It's a good question, and we'll...
And then he took him up, right? And then he says, take him back down. So what did Abraham Avinu think? What was his...
Right.
They were just making a mistake.
So that's the whole point of the test here. Not to think that the Eibishter made a mistake when he sent him there.
Didn't make a mistake.
Right.
I think from his point of view, maybe I'm not worthy of fulfilling Hashem's command of taking him back down.
Maybe.
Right?
Well, we'll get into that a little bit next week. Don't forget the clock. I was going to start with the Devar Halacha, so we'll end with the Devar. I've said I'm going to end 3 times. In Israel, they've now started saying Mashiach Baruch Hashem, saying Talamata, but not in Chutz La'aretz. However, I did see, the Nitri Gavril brings down, that if between now and December the 4th, you stay saying Talabot by mistake in Chutz La'aretz, you don't have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. Yesterday, if I said saying Talabot instead of saying Bracha, you have to repeat the Shemona Esrei because it's wrong. But he says that because Israel have started saying it, if you say it by mistake, you don't have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. I wish everybody a wonderful, happy week.